inspired by Dexter Morgan, America's favorite serial killer, who interested me the most because he was also a blood splatter analysis. I didn't know about such a job existed until I started watching Dexter. So today what I have done is I've set up a fake murder scene here, and I've left blood all over the scene. With the use of education that I have, I'm going to try to explain to you what happened here. But first, let's get a brief understanding of blood splatter analysis. Alright, as I said, my topic is blood splatter. I'm going to first start off here with my hands. What that is that's called a drag pattern. Drag patterns usually typically start out dark, and as they go further away from the origin, they get lighter. These patterns there can be very helpful. It can show you which way a body was drugged. If somebody was attacked and they wiped their hand down the wall, if they started up going down or such like that, those can be very useful in a crime scene. I then will also point out here the drop distance of blood patterns. Those get larger as you get higher up, and as you get further higher up, they create little areas around the blood pattern or the droplet called satellites. They also they differentiate by what they're dropped on. If they're dropped down like a wood pattern, they get a lot more ridges, kind of the same with concrete. But if you drop it on like a piece of glass, it's going to be perfectly cylinder, and once again, it depends on how high it is. If you get satellites, how big it is, but you can use those to try to figure out, what happened at the crime scene, if it was just like a finger wound or if it was something else. I then will bring you here. These are some blood splatter or blood drops that I made myself. I'm going to point these out. Like if you look around on here pretty close, there's some satellites. It even kind of goes above the black line there. Up down here we got areas of pooling starting. Just that pooling is a couple blood drops or a group of blood drops that fall together on a perfectly flat surface. Like I said, and you can see as I went higher, they got bigger, such as this right here, and satellites started to come out over here. And then the top one here, that's like if you get your throat cut. It creates like a perfect, almost a jagged line, perfectly jagged line if there is such a thing. And you get droplets that come down from gravity, and it just shows you that it kind of just flows out and which way it flowed. So that could be useful as well, knowing that maybe the body was moved after the throat was slashed or something was cut. It can be useful in figuring out such stuff like that. I will then come over here and talk to you about the area of impact on a blood stain pattern. 90 degree of perfect straight on is going to give you a perfectly circular blood angle of impact. But as the angle gets smaller, such as over here in like the 30s, the 10s, the 20s, it becomes more oval, and it also gets like more of a dripping pattern as well, thanks to gravity. The angle of impact is important because it's the person that's in front of you. Did they aim a gun down? Did they come down with a hammer? It just kind of shows what action that was made towards the victim when they were hit or assaulted or murdered, however you want to put it. But the area of coverage, which is a demonstration right here, this is when the blood hits the wall. What I did here is I got blood on a canvas here, and then I went through and you can figure out the area of convergence by finding a group of blood stains and just making a straight line through them. And as you can see, I made 7 straight lines, and where the lines meet in the middle is where it actually hit on the wall, and once it hits, it splatters out and makes more of a satellite pattern after the main impact. Once again, that could be useful just to know where the victim was standing when he got hit. And also you can figure what the area of origin or area of impact that I explained earlier. You can kind of get the whole scene of what happened. Maybe it was a hammer that came down, making it at a lower angle, and then when it hit the wall right there, you can see the motion and where it hit. I will next talk to you about a void pattern. A void pattern is where something's left on the ground by blood, and it kind of makes an outline of what's left there. As you can see in this one, it's a pair of scissors. Those could be a murder tool. With the area of coverage, so you can see what items was there, what items is missing. Maybe it is a pair of scissors and the killer took them and went back home. Then you can look for a pair of scissors possibly. It could be, give you details of why it was done, maybe purse for money. There's many of things, but the area of void there is important just because it gives you an idea of what was there at one time that's not there now. Next, I'm going to talk to you about the velocity of impact. As I did with the area of coverage, when it hits the wall, you can tell by a low velocity, which is typically created by like a fist, a shoe, a light blow. It just hits and kind of blows back. And if you look at the low velocity, it's still perfectly, there's some satellite a little bit, some ridging going on, but not too much. Compare that to medium velocity. There's some pooling going around. You can still kind of pick out where area of impact is, but a lot more satellite. The medium velocity is typically done by like a blunt object, a hammer, a baseball bat, something like that that would just really hit you and blow stuff back. And then you can compare that to the high impact. A high impact is just basically all missed. As you can see, typically it's done by a gun, and if you look on the picture there, right in the middle, that's a bullet hole. Guns are the typical area, the item that causes the high impact. Of that, and also in heavy-duty industrial equipment, such as like a shop fan. You put your arm in that, or somebody put your arm in that, and it blows it back. It's going to create quite the mess. Next, I'm going to talk to you about foot patterns. Foot patterns are pretty much kind of like the patterns here, the smear patterns. What they do is, once again, at the beginning, they start dark, and as it goes on, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. But the importance of foot patterns, it gives you a definition of what item was there again. You have an outline of somebody's shoe, so you can, if you need to return back to their house or something like that, you have an area there that you can compare the foot pattern there to what's at home. It also shows you, maybe if it was one person, or one or two or three different people, by the different patterns of the foot. It could show you where they entered at, where they exited at. It could show a lot of different information that could be used to solving a crime. Now, as I said, I'm going to take some of the information that we learned on the other side there and look at my murder scene that I created. First, if you look here, right here's a smear pattern. It looks like the person may have been killed right here because there's some definite blood pooling, and then was drugged back to the bed where she is now laying. Then you can also look there and see foot patterns on the ground. Maybe the killer was dragging her back. That's what those foot patterns are. Put her in bed and then ran out of the house. If you look there, there's some more smear patterns. Those could be hands. It looks like hands to me. Just maybe she was pushed against the wall, and kind of her hands fell back. Hard to really tell exactly what went on there, but that is definitely hand smear patterns. There's some, it looks like high impact or high velocity blood spray right there. There's a lot of different satellites, not much pooling. It's all kind of blowed back together there. Now let's take a look at the victim. First thing here, oh, there's those scissors. They're still there at the scene, but maybe the investigator looked up, and that on the wood there would create a void pattern where the scissors were. Now let's take a look at the victim herself. If you look there, there is the slash mark across her throat, so obviously she was cut across the throat and then stabbed multiple times too. Let's take a remove the body there, and there's some pooling of blood there where she was stabbed at, definitely around the neck and around the abdomen area, and as she was drug on, more blood got there. Because on softer areas, the blood pattern will kind of be larger than what it originally was drug up. As you can see on the mattress there, there's different colorations. That could be coagulation of the blood. It got bigger, it got smaller. So there's a lot of things that you can tell with different patterns on the blood and what they do. All right, so I thank you for listening to my video here. Before I go, I'd like to put out my sites so you can have information and references for yourself. Thank you for your listening, and hope you have a good rest of your day.